Hi, today I'm going to show you how to make these cute little ornaments out of borosilicate and using a small torch, which is a minor, which I'm using, but a mini CC or a smaller torch, and a concentrator. I am going to be using about a 1/2 inch tubing, and the diameter of it is only about 1.5 millimeter. If you get a lot thicker, like the heavy wall tubing, it's a lot harder to melt it and it takes a lot longer. So I'm going to be using this to make these smaller ornaments, but you can also use about 1 inch tubing. It's the same thickness, about 1.5 millimeter thickness, but you can make slightly larger ornaments if that's what you prefer. And so here's the difference between the smaller tube and the larger tube. You can see the difference in the size. I like the little ornaments. You can put more on a tree and have more sparkle, so that's fun. But so we'll get started. Thanks. The first thing I'm going to show you is how to pull a point. At the end of this tube that was really long, I pulled out this small section first, but you might already know how to do this, but just in case you don't, I'm going to turn up my torch as far as I can. Now I'm using an M20 concentrator, but this should work well also with an M15. The little 5 LPM concentrators, I'm really not sure. I mean, it's probably going to take you forever to get anything melted. So I'm turning this way up. You don't really have to worry about clear, burning out or anything. And I'm going to burn out or melt out about a 3-inch section. I'm going back and forth to heat some of this area. And when it starts getting really soft, start pulling and keep turning to keep it centered. If it loses center, you could fix that, so don't worry about it, but you want to try to keep it centered. And this is how I pull a point, and then I melt off the end here. I melt the blow tube here, push it down flat, and stick it in my water to break it off. So I got it broken off now. And then I just heat in the back flame to get the sharp edges off, because you don't want to hurt your mouth. I put that aside to cool while I fix my point. And once you fix your point, the other thinner wall part you took off should be nice and cool, and you can go along and pull all the points you want for as many ornaments as you want. You could go all across the tube and pull all the sizes you want, but I'm getting off the excess glass. You don't want a big glob of just massive glass there at the end. So I pull that off. I heat the very tip, get it nice and hot, and then you blow out a little bit. Very light puffs, just to round it out the end. And you want to try to keep all the wall thickness even, so you don't want a big mass of clear glass there. And now we're ready to make an ornament out of this. So like I said, if I wanted to keep going and make a bunch of ornaments, I would pull all the points out first until I get to the end. But for this demonstration, I don't need to do that. Okay, so I'm going to turn down my flame a little bit and just heat up the outer half of my tube. Just heat it up, and I'm going to use this blue. The one issue I have with concentrators, and you won't have this problem if you have oxygen or more power, or even maybe a better torch, but is melting in the color. That's the issue I have with it. You want to melt the color into the clear. You don't want it sticking out, and so it takes a long time to do that. But I'm using this iris blue, which is just a nice medium blue, and I have it encased in cobalt to give it a little richer blue color. It seems like the transparents are a little softer than the opaques, but the transparents seem to disappear more when you blow them out. So I'm trying to just add a little more softness to it because it just does take so long to melt this color in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn my flame down a little bit more now to work the stringer. And I'm going to try to do this on an angle so you can see. But I want to keep the tube even with my view, so I can try to make a line all the way around. See, I'm a little crooked there, but you can move it. So don't be afraid to use your tools and, squish or move your line if you go crooked. You can always scoot it over one way or another and try to straighten it out. So I just want to try to have a straight line going around the tube. And I'm going to do, I don't even know if I mentioned, I'm going to do this like twisted effect here. You can put whatever design you want on it, but I'm going to do this little twisty effect. So next I'm going to make a line, and I'm going to hold it parallel and just move the tube straight across, keeping my stringer in the same position. I want to kind of heat that a little bit to make sure it sticks. I'm going to go opposite so that that line is on the other side, and I'm going to try to do it exactly on the other, opposite side, just to try to get an even amount of spacing between the lines. Okay, now I'm going to cut those in half. Flip it on the other side, cut those in half. So now I got 4 lines around the side. Now I can use a different color if I want. If I want to use red, if I have enough red. No, I don't have enough red. If I want to use green, I can use a different color. But I'm just going to stick with blue, since it doesn't look like I have a lot of stringers. Oh, I got some green. I'll use some green. I'll split it with green. Green is harder to see though on the video, I think. So now I'm going to go in between the blue lines, butt up against that first line you went around your tube with. Just butt right up against it, have it touching. You can even overlap it a little bit, it's not a problem. So I'm going to go in between each blue line and add these green lines. That made me, that one a little crooked. And that's because the tube wasn't too hot, but it's not too bad. But see, you can straighten out your lines if you need to. Just take tweezers and you could squish it either way, or you can mash it together. Just heat the line and move it or squish it. Okay, and I went way off with that one. And the last green line. Okay. So it was still cold, so I was able to pull it right off. If you have an issue with that where you really put it down in the wrong position and it's stuck, use a very small flame and heat it and try to pull it off with a clear rod, because you don't want to ruin your tube. Okay. So what I do then is I pinch the bottom point together, and this, because I use a punty here for the twisting, and so I'm going to have just a little mass of color here all together. Okay, so now I have my lines. Now I want to heat it. This is the part that takes a long time working on a concentrator, and so I try to heat them in as well as I can at first, but I continue to heat them in as I twist and as I blow out, so they're not all the way melted in. at the get-go when I first start, so it's a little crooked, but that's okay. So I'm just going around and I'm trying to heat. I'm not really, I'm keeping my tube, you know, kind of below the flame, or you can keep it above the flame, because I'm trying to heat, you know, the stringers and not really the tube, because the color is a lot stiffer than the clear. And so I want the color to kind of meld into the clear, but I don't want the clear to distort too much. Oh, and I broke a stringer there. Which color is that? Is that blue? I don't think this wasn't hot enough, so let me fix that. Easily fixable. You can pretty much fix anything. Maybe a little bit more glass. Right there. Okay. So, and if your tube starts to bend in a little bit, just give it a little puff. Very small puff. You don't need to puff hard or anything. You just need the tube soft enough to for it to stretch out. And you don't want to puff it way out of distortion either. So it's a lot better to take small little puffs instead of trying to force, you know, a big huge puff in it. Okay. So now I'm going to punchy this. So I just have a clear rod. And I'm going to try to attach it pretty well, but I usually have it fall off on me. So I'm attaching it on that nub of color that I had. And I'm going to start doing the twist, even though the lines still aren't melted in all the way, but that's okay. I'm going to keep melting as I go. I'm making my flame a little stronger and finer, and I'm going to start with the circle line I went around the tube with. And what I'm doing is I'm turning with my left hand. I am left-handed, so you might do it in the opposite direction. And I'm just letting it drag with my right hand here. And see, it's starting to collapse a little bit. Just a little gentle puff. And so I'm just letting this drag, and eventually it will start to soften and turn. You can also try to straighten on your marker. If it's going out of whack, it's fine. We'll fix it all up later. So even if it goes crooked a little bit, we'll fix it. So, and collapsing a little bit's fine. It's gonna happen. So I'm heating this up really well, trying to get it nice and glowing. Okay. And then I'm going to just try to twist it a little bit. Just a little bit. We'll go back. So I'm continuing to melt these in as I'm twisting too. So, and now I'm a little bit over to the left. Heating the section a little further over, and I'm going to take it out and twist a little bit. You can always roll it on your marker, going back to the front. And so you can twist this as much or as little as you want. It really doesn't matter. Trying to get this line melted a little better. Like that. See, it's a little crooked. It's a little crooked, but we're going to fix that. And see, the lines still aren't melted all the way in. Now, if you're working on oxygen, they probably would be by now. But this whole video is for actually using a concentrator and a small torch. So if you have a bigger torch, it might work better too. I'm using an M20 concentrator, and I still want to hook up my National and see how it works on there. It might actually have better power than this thing, but I still have soft glass stuff to do, so I can't test it